got a special caller, and we are going to do a double board bomb pot, a big double board bomb pot hand. Something from an old buddy of mine in LA, if you might follow him on Instagram. This is Suited Superman. Hello, Mr. Key. How's it going?
Hey, Bart. Doing good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So last week you were on that WPT cruise, weren't you? The Voyager thing or whatever?
Yes, I actually just landed here in Miami. I'm still here for a couple of days.
What was the deal with that cruise? I mean, I saw pictures and stuff. I remember them doing like old card player cruises back in the day, but was it just like, when you go on a big cruise, right? It's just a tiny bit of poker players. The rest of the cruise is like non-poker players, right?
Yeah, this is actually very different. They actually take over the whole cruise, and they've been promoting this all year. And so they have a lot of, players actually just come there.
The whole cruise was poker players?
Yes, it's like over 1,000, 1,500 people.
Wow.
They take over all the public spaces and turn into poker rooms, and they run a bunch of tournaments with big guarantees. So it's like a whole poker series on the cruise.
Well, that's actually a pretty good idea. I didn't even think of that. So you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it's a very unique experience, and actually the fields are very soft. You wouldn't believe, like almost 100 entries in a 10K.
Wow.
And most of them don't even, they probably play like, $500 event, but
wow,
they
that's crazy.
qualify or they buy in. Yeah, it was crazy.
And then did they run some cash games and stuff too?
Yes, they do. Actually, JRB was on there running some huge private game, and the cash games are like abundant from 1-3 all the way to like 5-10. And I was playing a PLO games, a 5-5-10 that was pretty big as well.
Wow, that's pretty. And did some people like bring their families and stuff too?
It's adult only, so they can bring their like spouses.
Right.
No kids. Yeah.
That's interesting. No, I mean that actually sounds like a pretty cool thing. I was never really big into cruises, but I don't know. I didn't realize it was like that. Before we get into this hand, I want to ask you another question here too, Key, because I mean I've known you for 10, 15 years, something like that, and I remember you back in the day. You were like a $5 no limit player cutting your teeth. I remember playing like, 1K cap no limit with you. And then you sort of transitioned into PLO as your game. And then,
right.
Obviously you play really, really high PLO now. And this is going to come from a hustler hand where the double board palm bots go like once every orbit. But one of the things that I struggle with as a lot of people don't know here in New England that it's mostly PLO, unless you go to the Encore, and there's all kinds of issues with the Encore, the weight and stuff like that. But all the New Hampshire stuff that's really easy to me is PLO. I like it because they play a lot of double board bomb pots. But one of the things that I always had an issue with live PLO, and maybe you can help me out, is how slow it goes, 9-handed. Did you have to just get used to how slow the game goes? Just a regular 9-handed PLO game when you transitioned from live no limit?
Yeah, I honestly think there's a lot of places in the East Coast, like here in Miami, actually, they have a lot of 5-card PLO, and it is really slow. It's like people take forever just to peel their cards. But 4 cards, from my experience, it's actually moved pretty quickly. Like people don't really tank a lot, like Hold'em. Like it's actually, you get a fair amount of hands in, and for me, it's just more fun, more action, and get to play more hands than Hold'em. And the players feel was very, very soft as well for PLO. Like there's really it's just a big edge you have over the average pool. So that's kind of what interests me, and I just kind of transitioned to it. And it's really hard to also get into like a high stake Hold'em game nowadays. Everything is private.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, PLO is still remaining somewhat, at least for my game, I keep it public. Anyone can play. So,
by the way, I got to give you some props too, because I remember I saw you. I'm assuming you're going to play the 10K 4-card PLO 8 and the 10K Big O with me. But Key was this summer, he was on a streak. He had like cashed like in 10 straight PLO events. And you cashed in the 10K high low too, right? Didn't you squeak in last summer too?
Yes, yeah. I played the 10K, the 25K, and the 50K and cashed on those.
Cashed in all of them.
Yeah. And that was kind of follow up after the WPT win at the Garden. So it was like on a hot run. So I just like kind of ride the tournament bug,
Yeah, you'll have to come on here and talk about PLO high tournaments, because I know that's a whole nother different sort of beast. Although they do have antes from the start in those events, but I know, you can kind of play super tight. But I appreciate you giving that background, but let's get into this hand here. So you guys play a round of double board. What is it? A round of not a round of double board, a hand of double board at a dealer change at Hustler. And you're the host of the big game at Hustler, right? Is that right?
Right. Yeah, we run 10, 20 games every day, and then in the weekend we bump it. But yeah, our regular game just 4 card, just standard 4 card PLO, and then on the dealer change we just do a double board bomb pot.
Right.
For dealer's tip and the collection. It's a time collection game. So
what's the size of this game that you're playing in the blinds?
10-20 with a 20 ante.
10-20 with a 20 ante in the regular just PLO.
Right. And then oftentimes the 40 is on. So late in the night, it's always on. So.
And the ante in the double board is 100? You're playing 100 double board, is that right?
For this hand, yes, correct. Yeah.
All right. So
most of the time it's 100.
So 100 ante double board. And I did play, this was a game I played all summer, last summer in Kings, but it was 5-card. I don't know why they started as 5-card. 5-card will play bigger double board than 4-card, but I actually prefer 4-card, to be honest with you. So it's 100 ante double board bomb pot. And is it like 7-handed or something?
7-handed in this exact hand, but we play 8-handed in our game.
Okay, so 7-handed in this hand. This is quite an interesting hand. All right. And what position are you in?
Like a middle position.
All right. So hero in MP at what, 20K effective or something?
I started a hand with 30K, and the other 2 guys have 25K, and then the one guy covers me, actually.
Oh, okay. So it's 25K effective and one guy covers. We'll get to that in a second. So it's 700 to the flop. And what are you dealt in your hand?
I'm dealt King 9-3, double suited, hearts, and spades.
So hero has King of Hearts, King of Spades, 9 of Hearts, 3 of Spades.
Correct.
In mid position.
Right.
Okay.
The flops, the 2 flops, the top board comes Ace of Club, King of Diamond, Jack of Spade.
Ace of Clubs, King of Diamonds, Jack of Spades. That's flop 1. And then what is flop 2?
Ace of Heart, 6 of Spade, 2 of Heart.
Ace of Hearts, 6 of Hearts, 2 of Spades. Is that right?
6 of Spade, 2 of Heart.
Ace of Hearts, 6 of Spades, 2 of Hearts. Obviously, this is going to be very visual for you guys. We'll definitely graphically. We like to do some double board hands on YouTube too, and because people don't know, we actually have an entire double board section over on Crush Live Poker. So as this game proliferates, it's really one of the only places that I've seen actually double board training. So what does Key have here? Let's take a look. Well, he's got King 9-3. So he has flopped on the top middle set. Obviously, there's a Queen 10 straight out there. And now you have the nut flush draw on the bottom, right? With Ace of Hearts, 6 of Spades, Deuce of Hearts. Okay.
Yeah, I actually have the backdoor flush draw on both boards as well.
Yes, you do. You got spades and spades on both as well. Okay.
Yeah, so in this hand, the small blind, actually good friend of mine, he's a pro, and he leads out for 300. So I know he's like really solid. He's not, leading out really weak here, and I have no reason to raise, so I just call in middle position.
Yeah.
And the button covers both of us. He's like a old-time pro, long-time pro, older guy. He raises to 1.6K. That's pretty much pot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's just stop right here real quick, and then we'll go through. So again, you obviously have middle set on the top and the nut flush draw on the bottom. Funny thing enough, I mean, now you say you're from mid position. This actually is not a hand, I don't think, that's even strong enough to bet from up front. You could certainly make a case for betting in late position to basically just take it down. As people get sort of newer to this game, the issue here is that there's all the Queen 10 straights out there. And then, of course, you don't have anything on the bottom yet. Now, you have, of course, a big redraw on the top. And the fact that there are 2 aces out there on the top and on the bottom, of course, means that there's going to be, there's only one combo of a set of aces, which is actually going to come into play in this particular hand. So it's interesting to note, even Key, like, depending on how many people behind you, if you were even going to bet the flop here. I mean, I know that didn't happen, but like I would even make the case if there were several people behind you, I might check the flop. I don't know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I agree, because especially when I have the nut flush draw, I wanted to keep like the worst flush draw in, and if they hit, and they might, pay off.
Yeah.
Incorrectly.
Right. But here you say a solid player bets 300. Obviously, you have a square call. No question. I don't think about it. I think that solid player has probably a lot of queen 10 here, and you really should have queen 10 with something else going on. Personally, I always teach people that I actually check blind from the first few spots, like in a full ring, sort of full-handed game anyways, because I think it's so strong to bet out in these scenarios. Now, you call, and now the button, he raises to 1600. What's really interesting about this is, of course, you've got the shared nuts on the top. Both people can have queen 10. Pocket aces would be a huge hand here for a double set. But when you look at all the combinations of hands that you can have with 4 cards, when there's only one combination of ace-ace, it's just really not that likely. Now, I assume the small blind called, is that right?
The small blind call.
Yep.
And I call as well.
Yep. I think that is pretty standard that you call as well. You know, the other thing of note here too, that's a little bit interesting, is if the small blind had somehow like bet 3-bet the button, and you thought that these guys were sort of ready to get it in, it becomes somewhat of a complex math problem, because you know somebody's got queen 10 and you know you're behind on the bottom. There are 2 aces out there that are dead, so you're getting somewhat of an overlay. It gets really complex. The problem with your hand is that you don't beat any ace, meaning like if someone had ace queen 10, you're not beating that on the bottom, unfortunately for you right now. So it would have been a really interesting scenario if the small blind had bet 3-bet. But that did not obviously happen. Small blind calls, hero calls, you guys put in 4,800. So it looks like it's 5,500 now, right?
Yeah, it's around a little bit over 5K. And the turn on top is 5 of heart, and the turn on bottom is jack of club.
So it is ace, king, jack, rainbow on top, turns the 5 of hearts, and then on the second turn, it is ace of hearts, 6 of spades, deuce of hearts, jack of clubs, matching the jack here, but not necessarily doing anything for your hand. You don't pick up the back door or anything like that. Okay.
Pretty bricky. Yeah, so we both checked to the button, and he bets 3K, which is kind of small. I would expect him to like pot a lot here since the board doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
But he just bet 3K, so this might be kind of come in play later on. But we both calls.
So small blind calls, and then obviously, I mean, you're priced in here for sure. And again, I keep going back to the fact that like if the board pair's on top, it's just so unlikely. I mean, again, there is like one combo of ace-ace, but I mean, you have a pure nut flush draw here on the bottom, and then you've got middle set with the matching possibility of overset accounted for on top. 3,000 call, so you put in 9,000. So the pot now is 14,500, and you guys have upwards probably somewhere around 20,000 left, right, in your stack.
Yeah. So on the river come a jack of diamond on the top board, so the board paired.
Wow. Okay.
But no quad jacks available because the jack of clubs on the bottom. So, and on the second board, the river comes a king of club. So I made second set again. So I have a second natural house. Yeah.
King of clubs. So this is really interesting here, the way that this board ran out. So you make a set of kings on the bottom, ace, 6, deuce, jack, king. But the thing is that somebody's driving queen 10 because the backdoor queen 10 has also come in here. So it's just really, you're not going to have the best hand here on the bottom. Now, on the top, though, it's ace of clubs, king of diamonds, jack of spades, 5 of hearts, jack of diamonds. You're only losing to one hand, right? Which is pocket aces.
Right.
And we talked about how there's already one ace that is dead. So somebody's driving queen 10 here, and it's most likely the button, unless the button somehow has, pocket aces. We talked about that one combo here. What does the small blind do?
On the river, the small blind check. I check.
Okay, hold on a second here, Key. So small blind checks, because I wanted to go to your decision point here.
Yeah.
I think that with all of this action and a lot of competent players, if the button, and I know you're a competent player and you're telling me the small blind's a competent player, if the button has any clue here, the button has to know that queen 10 is present here in a lot of different spots, whether it's a small blind or you or everybody's spot. Now, queen 10 is the nuts now on the bottom. It's not the nuts on the top. So my thinking here, and there's just no way I'm ever full. I mean, I think king's full here is such a great hand here up on the top, especially, you only have, you've got, 20,000 left. My thinking here is that queen 10 is going to check behind here a lot. And you can't let that happen because you really want to quarter these two guys with queen 10. So I'm actually doing a lot of leading here if I were you. And
I thought about it. Yeah, the small blind actually took forever and check. He tanked for forever and check, and I also tanked for a bit. I thought about leading as well.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about the size of the lead here too, because to be honest with you, I don't know if these guys are capable. Like if I'm up against really, really good opponents that somebody might be capable of folding queen 10 here and doing the math out, maybe. Actually, you know what? It's really a kind of a complex spot because if you bet 2/3, queen 10 might even need to call to get quartered here. It gets really, really complex. Usually I'm not going to give somebody credit to be able to fold queen 10, so I would probably go close to pot and expect both calls with queen 10. Now, if you go close to pot and the button calls and the small blind is some sort of player and he can do the math and figures out that all he has is queen 10 here and he's getting quartered and he can't call a pot-sized bet, you might not get that overcall. So that's where the finagling of the sizing comes into play. But the point that I'm making here is I'm doing a lot of betting because I don't want it to get checked through. But you say you checked, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned that queen 10 might check behind. Yeah, that's in my head as well. I thought queen 10 probably checked behind because.
But you don't want that though.
Right. Yeah, from my perspective. But now when I check, the button pots it.
So the button pots it.
5K. Yeah.
For 14.5, right?
Yes.
And remember, you started this street with about 20,000, right? Right. Give or take 20,000. So the button pots for 14.5. And what does the small blind do?
He snap call. He's just flicking the chip like right away.
Small blind calls.
Beat him to the pot.
I mean, so you only have an extra 55. So if you call the 14.5, you only have 5,500 more, meaning like the pot right now, like if you just call here, the pot is like, it's almost like 60,000 and you only have 5,000 left. So if you were to check jam, it would be like a $65,000 pot, 5,000 left. I think that this is a situation, we always talk about sometimes reverse pot odds too on Crush Live Poker, which means that you can actually shove with a thinner value range at the end when you're going to give your opponent such a great price. Like no one's ever folding here. It's a little bit troublesome. Well, it's not really troublesome because of the combos, but if the button has any idea what he's doing here, he really should have a boat and like queen 10, but like, God damn it, all the kings are accounted for. You do beat ace jack though, right? Like he could have queen 10 ace jack. So once in a great while, you might lose to pocket aces from the guy on the button and get scooped. Right. But there are so many more situations here when I'm looking at all the cards, and again, this is visual, where you're going to 3/4 these guys. Even if somebody else has a boat, you have to put the rest of the money in, I think, for 5,000 more. You're going to get half, way more than you're going to get scooped here.
I think I just kind of circle back to the flop street a lot, and I just didn't quite think that he would raise with a lot of hands. But now that I think about it, if you have like ace jack queen 10 with a nut straight and then the top pair on the bottom, he might choose that hand to raise as well. He's never going to be getting check raise from us or getting 3-bet from us because he have an ace. Then that's pretty likely, and there's a lot more combos of that.
Yeah. I mean, right, because he can almost. Yeah, I think you're right on there where like he can just bet queen 10 and an ace and try to drive somebody out of the hand because he thinks no one has a full house, right? He's got trip aces.
Right.
For the blocker part of this, yeah. first, like I said, I would have put it in. I would have bet if I were you, probably pot from up front because I would have been scared queen 10 checks behind. But with this action and with the stacks, I'm check raising all in. Like I said, probably maybe 10 to 20% of the time you might get scooped, but 80% of the time you're going to get half. And remember, it's only this extra 5,000. So that's what we're talking about here. So I think the math tells me to check jam. What did end up happening?
Yeah, so I actually folded.
You folded?
I don't know. I don't know what I was like.
What?
Putting the button on aces and the small blind with queen 10. So that's why I made the folded.
Oh no. No. I mean the thing here is that like, yeah, the pot odds that you're getting, again, it's not to win. I mean, if you want to look at the math of this, it's kind of, say you were only going to get half here. What you would do is you'd go back to the pot on the turn, which is 14,500. Let's say you're going to get half and you decide to just call. You take half of the turn pot size, which is about 7,250, and then you take half of somebody's bet because because one guy is basically, you're either going to quarter a guy or a guy's going to muck. So you're going to win 7,250 from the turn and then 7,250 from the river. So you're actually calling 14,500 to win 14,500. You only have to win half 50% of the time here to make this a profitable call. You're winning half like 90% of the time. I mean, I'm just talking about jamming to get the more money in at the end, you know? So
yeah, so I didn't think the button would bet with queen 10, but he actually did have naked queen 10 with flush draw. So queen 10 of heart is what he had.
Oh no.
He raised the flop with the straight and the flush draw. And the small blind actually also have his own free roll. He has queen 10 with ace 6.
Ace 6 and queen 10.
Yeah, so he has two pair on the bottom and on the top.
Oh, key. Oh my God. Did you have to walk that one off? I talk about sometimes you have to walk it off.
Did.
Oh,
I actually
no.
walked off for like 30 minutes.
Oh, no. Oh, no. I mean, yeah, obviously the worst case for you is the guy on the button has ace, right? And the other guy has queen 10, but there's just so many other more combos though, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I asked the button about it later, like why did he bet the river? And he said basically he free rolling like the river bet. Like he thinks that if he has get quarter every time he pots and he have a small chance of like getting kings to fold, then he's basically always gonna get his pot size bet on the river back.
How is he gonna? What do you mean? You mean he pocket kings to fold?
Well, he's saying like if he bet with queen 10 on the river and he always get like quarter of the pot most of the time. Right? Because if he put one of us on a boat and then the other guy have queen 10, he's going to get a quarter, which is his bet back.
But if he can get somebody to drive out and then they get and then he chops it, he wins some money. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, like if he can get ace jack to fold, for example, that's the big win, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but you guys are all competent though, Key. So you all have queen 10 plus, or you specifically have king with hearts, which is what you have. Like, there's no one in there with naked ace jack unless they've got ace queen jack 10, right?
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. Hey, Suited Superman, thank you very much for the call. I appreciate that.